Hi, and welcome to a new Plugin Guru video. My name is John. Skippy Limcool. Hands together, head bowed. Glad to see you. Welcome. Hey, I have a fun video, I hope. A helpful video, I hope. I wrote 6 demos for the new Omni-X patch library that Tim Dale made, which is a great library. It's very inspiring. I wrote all of these in one day. When you play new sounds, they give you new ideas. They give you inspiration. That's why we love new libraries, right? I'm in the same boat as everybody else. So Tim's been working on this library for 6 months, honing it. It's really got a lot of great ideas, starters in it. So there's a lot to cover in this video. I'm going to show you the demos. I'm going to show you how these patches work together. We're going to talk about tips and tricks with Contact 5 and with the Super Macho Drums drum kits, which I still say are the funnest, coolest, fastest way to edit sounds. And this kind of is a really cool testament to that, because I'm going to be playing all 6 demos using one drum kit. Because I use a kit from Super Macho Drums called Super Pop, it has all these kicks and snares. So you can go from one style to another style just by playing different notes. It's not like you have to load up different kits and stuff. And then there's some cool tricks. Kick drum is a big issue for a lot of you guys. It's one of the most important elements in dance music, is to get the kick right. I will share some of the knowledge that I have learned. You can see this rather healthy mastering chain, which currently is off. If I come over here and turn it on, you'll hear this additional aggressiveness to my voice. That's because of what these are doing to any audio that goes through it. So the idea being, there's latency, so I'm hearing myself like a half second later, so I'm turning it off for a second. But I'll show you how this chain, what it does, the difference it does to the sound. I actually have bounced out both mastered and not mastered, so we can go between the two. So there's a lot to cover, okay? So to start with, I'll play the demo. And as you can see, the blue, this is one Omnisphere. So it was used for these songs. Then I ran out of Omnisphere slots. So right here I started another Omnisphere to add this sound. And I used Airbrush for one of the song ideas. So I'll show you all these sounds. We use some cool tricks. You'll hear those. These down here are each an entire Omnisphere playing a single multi. So when you come to Pad Universe, Velvet Universe, you know, that's one Omnisphere playing Lord knows how many patches. Some of these get kind of carried away, but this is 4 patches layered to make this one. Okay, so you'll hear those for, like right here, there's 2 multis playing along with 1 patch from one of the Omnispheres. They're each colored. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you look at the mixer, none of them have any additional effects whatsoever on them. They're completely flattened out. There's a compressor on Contact. I'll tell you real quickly, I have bussed all of the kick drums to their own audio channels. So they show up right here, so they can be a little bit louder than the rest of the mix. And they don't go through the compressor. They don't go through the effects that are set up inside of the kit. I have a limiter on the kit. It bypasses that by doing it this way. There's another trick I will talk to you in a minute about after playing this to get the kick to, like, you'll notice it's just right there the whole time. And there's tricks to do that. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So first of all, let me turn off my microphone and play you the demo. So there you go. Low latency mode back on so I can talk and not hear a delay. So that's 6 songs. Still can't believe I wrote all those in one day, but that's how it works sometimes. It's just creative juices. Cool. So the trick that I want to talk to you about real quickly on the kick drums. This is it. This is one of those things I learned a long time ago when working with engineers in tape on 2 24-track machines, working on Ambrosia albums and Whitney Houston albums and Mariah Carey albums way back in the day. Engineers want a steady kick that is right there. They would be upset if it fluctuated because that took it out of their control. And so you have to think that way when you're doing this. The dynamics is not something you really want in your drum tracks for the kick drum. The kick drum is the anchor to your song. It needs to be there and it needs to not change for the most part. So in most of these examples, when it comes to the kick drum, I have gone through and taken them and held down the option key and brought up their velocity so that they were at max, and then maybe I'd bring them down if I wanted to have it filter just a little bit, because a lot of these I have velocity control to the filter, and if I bring the velocity down a little bit, it gets it just a little bit darker, just a little bit. So the key to the drums is this. It's sending the drums to their own outputs, which means you would go to contact 5, you would open it up in multi-output. You also have to, and there's a video I've done on YouTube you can search for if you haven't learned how to do this. You need to know how to set up multiple outputs inside of contact 5. And then once you have it set, you go save current output selection as state, save current output selection state as default for, and then whatever formats you want. I say all formats because I want this to be available and how it loads up no matter how I set the output assignments, but it can be different for different states. And all that means is that when I now go to this page right here, if I play kick drum and I go right here, I now have 4 stereo outputs to select from. And I took every one of the kick drums, and instead of them being, everything else is set to the limiter / mix, which just means that it's, let's see if we go here to the insert effects. This limiter is right here, and it's just doing a small amount of boosting while the output's at 0 dB. So it just gives it a little nice soft saturation factor. If you it's very subtle. But with kick drums and then everything else in the mix, it does make a difference to take these drum sounds and send them to their own output. Once you've done that, you need to go into your DAW of choice and set it up to be multiple output, then hit this plus button. And each time I do that, it adds an additional bus. So like, for example, if I want this kick drum, which is currently on, see all the rest of the drums are right here on this channel. Let's see, right here, right? But all the kicks are right now here. If I want, I could take this kick and say stereo 3, and now it's over here. And the advantage is that you have separate control. These could be playing, and this this kick can be at a sky high level or whatever you want it to be, or you can group them all together. I have all the kicks grouped to this one setting, okay? And the other advantages of that is now you could use a compressor somewhere else and use this kick channel as a sidechain trigger. There's all sorts of things in music production that you might want to use a separate kick send to, so it's nice to do it that way. It just makes it so that in the end, between having velocities that are steady and consistent and then send to its own outputs, when I play these drum tracks, solo, that kick is there in the same place all the time. And that gives you the ability to control it, control the level if I need it to be a little louder. So I have separate control over the kick and snare by doing this. So that's where so many people fall down, is they just have their drums all on one channel and they have them soft in the mix, and then it sounds like you've just got watered down drums. And drums are important. They need to be in your face. We are a rhythm music culture at this point. There's a strong emphasis on rhythm. So you need to make it so that when you're playing it soft, you know, check the mix. Make sure you hear that kick. And then at 0 dB, you need to be able to hear the kick clearly no matter what volume you play it at, okay? So that's the drum trick. And that works for whatever drums you use, but I think having super mantra drums is really fun. So those I sell at my site. Go get them. So this first song is just a multi. This guy right here, solo. Let's call it up so you can see what it's doing. This is called Intricate Split. And if you hit, like I talked in the walkthrough video, hit stack so you can see that it is a split. Okay, so they are two things to work from. So I'm doing that with the music I'm playing. So if you see the notes, there's just two notes. And then to sweeten it, drums. And my drums are a little loud right now because I was showing you what I was doing with the separate outputs. But let's get to this next one. This is using two patches. It's using Ace of Mod. And then a BPM synth. Kind of has like a muted guitar vibe. Whether you're using, you know, some people think this is cheating. It's just giving you sounds that are doing something more complex than you just playing it in with notes. To get the results of what we're doing with these ARP and BPM patches would take more automation programming, more things like that. This is doing some cool things in the sound because of the synth engine and how it was programmed by Tim. So I don't think these are cheating at all. It's just giving you a more complex thing without spending the hours and hours to do it, you know. But each their own. If you want to program it in yourself, go for it. But the two of these together sounds like this. And I just added a kick drum. Okay? It's not about how many parts you use, it's about choosing the right parts, if you can see that, right? The next song idea is really nice. I really love this pad, Enigma. Right? So that opens the whole track with drums. Okay, then a melody. comes in with that sound and another soft bass. I wanted it to be like a retro. You know, that cool stuff changing. Just by one mod wheel movement, you can make it 127 different kinds of bass. From that, in the middle, or all the way down. So when you put those all together, let's solo lock it, and then hit this and... Then you add the drums. There you go. It's nice. Okay, up next is the one that used that big, huge, massive pad. The rule of thumb with huge pads like that is you can't play big notes. Or else if you do, don't play much else with it. In this case, I'm simply playing like octave or an octave and a 10. So you play like the D, and then you play the minor third, an octave higher. So like a lot of today's music production is just a 10 stretch. So off you go. So this is playing that part. Right? And I immediately thought, you know, this sounds like a remix of like an 80s video game, or, you know, Skeletor and that kind of a thing. So I went looking, and there's all these really cool drum. I mean, just so we're clear, this library is on a rather large, massive scale with patches. If you go to Omni-X 2, it's 256 patches. So there's all these BPM pads, stuff, drums, all that stuff, right? So I went searching around, and I found this really cool birdie rhythm. Hey, come over to my pad. Yeah. But when you put that with your dramatic blush chord thing, right? And then I twisted it with the drums. I had super macho drums. I went to this snare and I put reverb on it. And so it's got this nice dramatic splash when it hits. And instead of being instead of playing along with that groove, I went halftime. So the end result is this. Nice. See how the kick is steady? You want to feel it, even if you're soft like this. All right, so the next track is 3 Omnisphere patches plus a couple additional side patches for a momentary thing with the drums. So we start with Curveball. Got this really cool like spitty short thing and then a resonant. All on the mod wheel, so it's really fun. Choppy Waters, I love this because it has a nice mid-range frequency, not a lot of low end, and the mod wheel is set up to do really cool reverb. And it's set up so you can do accented things. So if you listen to this, if we call these two guys together and solo them, you don't hear much of the second one yet, but you'll hear it start right here the second time through. Check it out. Just playing with the reverb. So that was a really cool complement to this. And then on top of that is the BPM sequence synth patches have melodies, because that's what the sequence stands for. Is it's sequenced instead of just the arpeggiated BPM thing. So I just have it do that. Chipper groove is a Casio kind of thing, but I made it a little bit tricky in that just I had it do octaves. And while it's doing that, we have a bubble riser, which is it's synced out to work for whatever tempo, whatever your speed is, to be one measure. And it's gone. So if you add all those together with the kick drums, oh, and I'll talk to you about the drums in a minute, because I did a cool thing to the drums here. So let me play it so you can hear the whole thing for a second. Now that we've talked about the components. Hear the reverb in and out. Here's a little transition. Then a break. So the melody, these melodies, if you hold it down, it's just gonna play forever. Right? But find places for it to stop and breathe. So that's what we did here, is I just had it go So find places for the melodies to breathe in your music. It's an important component. It's don't have it do the whole all the time. I hear that in demos and songs that people send me all the time, and you need to find places where music can breathe. Whatever you're playing, imagine you're singing it. And you have to stop sometime and have a breath. That was one thing that really helped me, as I played French horn and trumpet in band. And you have to have places for the trumpet players and the horn players and the sax players to breathe. They can't just play nonstop unless you're playing a Frank Zappa song or something like that. So there's another tip for you. Now, on the drums, I took the snare. If you listen right here, this groove is really nice. And the snare that is carrying this is actually two parts. It's both this, it's a side stick with some lo-fi noise in the sample. But right here, this is the sound we want to look at for a second. This originally has a flange, like phaser, Leslie. And if I had this the way it was by default, having all that ringing is not really that's not a thing that's happening today. Usually a lot of the like short stocky kind of thing. So to get that effect, I used hold. This determines it to stay open for a period of time before it hits the decay. And then if this is longer, it's going to be a slower fade out. But if this is short, it just goes away. And then you want to automatically, if anytime you do something like this with the hold and the decay, you need to look at your release, because if you play your sound short, it will ring out depending on your release. So make it so when you hold the note down and when you play short, it's the same, unless you don't want it. There's other times where you want this to be long, and you hold it down and then you play short and you get your long release. But you have those controls. I have a pitchy G. And I could have even gone in here and turned on EQ, other things if I wanted to. So I'm gonna just play, check this out. I'm gonna play and just add the pitchy G while it plays the groove. Hear it? It's more blatty without the pitchy G. The pitchy G gave it this really nice defined shape. And if I wanted to stand out even more, then this is where you would go over to your mixer And I already have an auxiliary set up for it, so I could just say send this to output 3. Now it's on its own, so when I play the mix, oh, there's some funny stuff happening here where mod wheels are stuck in weird places, so let's go like that. So putting things to separate outputs when it comes to drums will give you more definition of that sound. So if you need to have something stick out a little bit, put it on its own output. So it's not sharing any frequency space or stereo space with anything else, and it will make a difference. All right, so and then there's one last track which has another really big kick drum along with air burst. This is really cool. Cool vibe. And then a nice melody. And what's nice with this melody is you can play just little quarter notes and bounce around your melody, or hold it down and it goes and it just sits there. So if we hear that, and then there's also another cool sound off the orbital plane. It's a Vox, but it has that really unique little attack, and I keyed in on that, and I was like, oh, I want to use that. So watch how this is used. So let's put these all together so you can see them in the sequence. There's the melody right up here. Okay, so finding elements that work together, not going for 15 things playing at once, will give you a cleaner mix, as you can see, hopefully. So let's do this. I'm going to turn all these off to make sure they're off. We'll talk about these in a second. Check this out. So this is my mastering chain. It goes from a high pass filter, let's turn something like this, so I can just click these, into a overall gain adjust just to control the mix of what's going to be hitting my mastering effect chain, which is basically the Neve. I love the Universal Audio Neve channel. Just got a really nice, a little more aggressive in your face it does to the sound. The multi-band compress limiter. This is really, really important for shaping and controlling the frequency of the sounds. I'll show you how that works in a minute. The Shadow Hills mastering compressor, it does this. I used to have a Tube Tech LCA 2B stereo analog, like $3,500 compressor at my studio when I lived in Los Angeles like 25 years ago. And it was just awesome because you just run sound through it. No settings, nothing done anywhere, and out would come magical audio. It just did this magical thing to the sound. And I have settings here which kind of do a similar magical kind of thing to this. I think it's just the mastering loud PGM, and then I controlled the threshold and so forth, so that it's hardly even doing anything to the sound. And then finally at the end is a limiter, which is just bringing up the volume a little bit and controlling it so it doesn't go below 0.1 dB. And to hear the results, let's do this. I have two versions. I have the non-mastered and then the mastered. So you can hear what happens. Here's without mastering. Here's with mastering. There'll be faster switching now. That's without. Here's without, and here's with. More definition. Let's see if I open this up a little bit so I can see it like that. You'll see it even. What did I do? There. So like that. Here's without. Here's with. It brought up all that mid frequency, the clap. It just does this nice definition. So there you go. That to me is all I need from the mastering. It just sweetens the mix, makes it a little bit more aggressive. These people that go from like super like it's like the mix is nothing to like just ripping your head off, that's too extreme for me. But it's all up to what settings you use. If we go over here, I'm going to try to talk with this on, and we'll play this. Let's do this. We'll go over to one of these songs, like this one. So here's the Neve. Multiband. Shadow Hills. Let's just do that first part. Oh, yeah, those are my effects. Shoot. Okay, calm up again. Oh, there they are. So here's without. Okay, so you can hear without. So this time use the EQ and the compressor limiter. Just soft. Doing a little bit of shaping. And this is where the really shaping happens. And you have control. What's fun of this, you can also solo. So multiband compression does this really cool. So if you want to have a cool effect, you just
This is Radio 501. Come on over to Tokyo. We have fun here.
So you have control over those bands. Without it, it just does this magical thing that I love. So that's the three main effects that I like to use is something to do an overall soft compression, the multi-brand compressor, and then the Shadow Hills. So that's I don't know exactly what it's doing, but I love it. And I'm gonna just I love the model where I pay money for these and they're mine, and I know they're not gonna go away. And I will give you a heads up. This is just a Waves has killer prices. They do the $29 on their effects. Be aware that that is for you to get it to work with whatever system version their effects are all on. And when they go up to the next version, you have to pay to make your effects work in the next version up. I owe them like $350 at the moment if I want my effects to work with the latest version of their software. And I don't like that model. It's different for everybody, but just be aware the Waves are a great way to get effects, but then you're going to have to pay for them when they do updates. And sometimes you don't have to do the updates because it still works on your computer with your version. But when Apple brings out a new version, it breaks everything and it has to be fixed and you need a new update. And then you go to look and go, oh, I have to pay for these effects again to get a version that works with this version that now works with my computer. I don't like that model. So Universal Audio I do like a lot because I pay for it. It's mine. Fab Filter from those guys, they're awesome. Sound Toys, their effects are great. You pay for it, it's yours. The Waves model, I just have a bad allergy reaction to because I get bills later saying I need to pay more money. Just be aware of that, okay, if you don't know that. That's it. That's enough for this video. So if you appreciate this knowledge and my sharing of my experience, I do ask, it's a win-win for both, is to please buy this library, or if you own this library or you want another library, go to the website. I've been at this for a while. There's patch libraries for all sorts of things, and that's what keeps me in business, paying my bills, so I have time to use that electricity to make more videos like this. So thank you for your support. Thank you for your time, and I hope this helps you with your quest. Like we're all on the same quest to musical nirvana, right? So keep going. Don't give up, and I'll be with you, okay? So see you later. Be well.